When the US and Israel began striking Iran on February 28, 2026, Tehran responded the only way it knows how. Waves of ballistic missiles and Shahed kamikaze drones aimed at Israel and every Arab state hosting an American military base. For days afterward, despite losing senior commanders and taking significant damage to its military capacity, Iran kept launching swarm after swarm. Then something changed. Somewhere over Israel, a fresh wave of Iranian kamikaze drones closed in at 150 kilometers per hour. They were designed to catch Israel by surprise. Instead, one by one, they burst into flames mid-air. This is Israel's Sci-Fi machine making its combat debut. Right now, Israel is destroying multi-million-dollar drones using a weapon, the Iron Beam, that costs $2 per shot, the price of a candy bar. To kill a drone that cost Iran $50,000 to build, program, and launch, Iran spent 2 decades engineering the perfect economic trap for the West. Israel just deleted the entire strategy for less than the cost of your morning coffee. Let's get into exactly why Iran's master plan just collapsed and why Putin is losing sleep over the same weapon. To understand why the Iron Beam changes everything, you first need to understand the trap Iran spent decades building. Iran's defense budget in 2025 was roughly $23 billion. The United States' was $900 billion. On a conventional battlefield, that is not a war. That is a demolition. Iran knows this, so Iran built a completely different kind of war. The strategy is elegant in its brutality. You do not win by matching your enemy's strength. You win by making the cost of fighting you unbearable. And the weapon you use to do that is not a fighter jet or a ballistic missile. It's a cheap drone. Iran's Hessa Shahed 136, the backbone of this strategy, costs between $20,000 and $50,000 to produce. It fits in the back of a truck. It can fly over 1,500 miles on a pre-programmed route, carry 40 kilograms of explosives, and navigate using a sophisticated combination of GPS systems specifically engineered to resist jamming. It has killed people in Kyiv, Riyadh, and across Israel. Now, here is the math that kept Western defense planners awake at night. Every time Israel fires an Iron Dome interceptor to destroy one of these drones, it costs $50,000. Every time the US fires a Patriot missile, $4 million is gone. If they choose to deploy a terminal high-altitude area defense interceptor, known as THAAD, that is $12 to $15 million per shot, an 80-to-1 cost exchange in Iran's favor every single time. It gets worse. The AN/TPY-2 radar that supports the THAAD system costs upward of $1 billion to build and deploy. In the current conflict, one of them was disabled by Iranian drones, costing roughly $30,000 each. That is a cost exchange ratio of more than 30,000 to 1. Iran never wanted to penetrate the defense. The goal was to bankrupt it. Interceptor inventories take years to replenish through complex supply chains. Iran can produce more Shaheds using commercial components and relatively simple manufacturing in a matter of weeks. And using cheap drones to bleed a superior enemy is not a new strategy. In January 2024, 3 US Army reservists were killed and over 80 were wounded in a drone strike on Tower 22, a logistics base near the Syrian border in Jordan. A single Shahed-type drone, costing roughly $20,000, killed American soldiers on a base protected by some of the most expensive military hardware ever built. As drone specialist Samuel Bendit of the US Center for Naval Analysis put it, rather than investing in more expensive combat capabilities, this shows it is cheaper to buy a drone and hope it either hits something or your enemy expends resources. That was the trap. Bleed the West dry, one interceptor at a time. But Iran walked straight into a wall it never saw coming. Israel's Rafael Advanced Defense Systems did not just build a better interceptor, they broke the entire economic logic of the drone era. The Iron Beam is a 100 kilowatt directed energy weapon, a high-energy laser mounted on a mobile trailer that can be driven to wherever the threat is. Plugged into a generator and fired, it connects directly with Israel's existing air defense network and serves as the critical first layer of the shield, engaging threats at ranges of up to 10 kilometers before they ever reach populated areas. Former Israel Prime Minister Naftali Bennett confirmed in 2022 that each Iron Beam intercept costs approximately $3.5. More recent estimates put that figure as low as $2.5 per shot. Call it $2 against a $50,000 Shahed drone, against a $20,000 rocket, against the exact weapon system Iran spent a decade building specifically to bankrupt Israel's defenses, which raises a fair question. If this weapon exists, why did it take roughly 2 weeks of conflict before it was deployed? We will get to that. The Iron Beam kills Iran's strategy, but how does it actually work? This is all physics, and it's more terrifying than anything Hollywood has put on screen. The Iron Beam fires a concentrated beam of photons traveling at 186,000 miles per second. That is the equivalent to the speed of light. The moment the system locks onto a target, the energy is already there. The Shahed drone's plywood and fiberglass airframe, chosen specifically because it is cheap and hard to detect on radar, begins absorbing over 100,000 watts of energy focused on a spot roughly the size of a coin. When the beam locks on, the temperature at the impact point surges to thousands of degrees within milliseconds, far beyond what any material can survive. The thermal shock triggers localized explosions from the inside out. The IDF put it in their own words in a statement reported by Ynet News. After thousands of years of warfare, for the first time, there is a system that can use a laser beam to intercept most types of threats at multiple ranges. We must begin investing now in the next technologies. This system is only one milestone. The next step in building a full capacity in the laser domain that will later operate at greater power levels, both as an offensive means and for airborne operation. Rafael Vice President Yehuda Black has been clear that the Iron Beam will not replace the Iron Dome. It complements it. It takes over the low-level threats, the cheap drones and the short-range rockets that previously forced Israel to burn through its expensive interceptors. It was designed specifically to solve the cost problem that Iran spent 2 decades engineering. And it does something no missile-based system can ever match. It has an effectively unlimited magazine. You should know that the Iron Beam has already seen combat. According to multiple defense analysts and media reports, the system was used to intercept rockets and drones launched from Lebanon, marking the first combat deployment of a directed energy weapon by any nation in an active conflict. The implications for Iran's swarm doctrine are catastrophic. The system uses 2 lasers simultaneously, with adaptive optics to compensate for atmospheric interference like heat, humidity, and dust that would otherwise weaken the beam. The thermal camera handles tracking once the radar hands off the target, maintaining lock through any evasive movement. At 150 kilometers per hour, evasion is irrelevant against something moving at the speed of light. The Iron Beam is also deliberately modular. The current deployed version runs at 100 kilowatts, enough to handle drones and short-range rockets. Rafael has confirmed it can scale to 450 kilowatts, sufficient to engage larger cruise missiles. The whole system fits on a truck. It can be repositioned overnight based on where the threat is coming from. Traditional air defense has always come with a hidden cost. When a missile intercepts a rocket, mortar, or drone mid-air, the explosion doesn't just neutralize the threat, it creates a second one. Shrapnel and wreckage rain down on the same civilians the system was built to protect, and depending on the size of the munitions involved, that falling debris can be just as deadly as the original attack. The Iron Beam cuts that risk in half because the laser dissipates the instant it destroys its target. It contributes nothing to the debris field below. The only wreckage falling is what the enemy launched. What Israel fired back leaves no trace. In every dimension that matters, cost, speed, precision, and logistics, it is the weapon the West has needed since the day Iran first launched a Shahed. Iran's entire playbook depends on one thing: numbers. Launch enough drones simultaneously to overwhelm a defense network that has a finite number of interceptors. If you fire 100 Shaheds and the defender only has 60 missiles, 40 get through. The math was always on Tehran's side. But the Iron Beam does not have 60 shots. It does not have 600. As long as it is connected to a generator, it has unlimited shots. The only thing it needs is electricity, and Israel has electricity. Against a swarm of 100 drones, the system retargets multiple threats, engaging and eliminating each threat in under a second. By the time Iran's 100th drone reaches engagement range, the first 99 are already falling out of the sky. The swarm doctrine has become economically suicidal. Iran is now spending $50,000 per drone to give Israel a $2 electricity bill. This is why defense ministries from Moscow to Beijing are running emergency assessments right now. Iran's proxy network, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, Kataib Hezbollah, all operate on the same assumption that they can sustain drone campaigns indefinitely because the defender will eventually run out of interceptors. That assumption is now broken. The Pentagon responded urgently. Directed energy systems are being fast-tracked for American bases across Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf through partnerships with Raytheon and Rafael, scaling from current 50-kilowatt truck-mounted prototypes to 300 to 500-kilowatt configurations. First combat tests against Iranian proxy drones have already confirmed viability. And for Russia, the implications hit closest to home. Putin built a war economy around drone saturation, outpacing Western defenses. Every Shahed fired into Ukraine could soon become a $2 problem. That assumption, like Iran's, is expiring. Zoom out for a moment, because what Israel has built is the final piece of the most sophisticated air defense architecture ever constructed. Israel's shield now operates across 5 layers. The Iron Beam handles anything from 0 to 10 kilometers. The cheap drones and short-range rockets had previously bled the system dry. The Iron Dome takes over from 4 to 70 kilometers, handling artillery rockets with a confirmed 90% intercept rate, now freed from wasting $50,000 missiles on $500 threats. David's Sling bridges the gap to 300 kilometers, eliminating larger cruise and ballistic missiles. Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 operate in the exosphere, intercepting long-range ballistic missiles in space before they re-enter the atmosphere. And the US integrated Patriot PAC-3 and THAAD systems provide the final backstop against the highest-end threats, networked across all layers through a unified command and control system. The result is a shield that is, for the first time in history, impenetrable at every price point. For decades, cheap offense beats expensive defense. Iran built its entire regional strategy on that equation. Russia built a war economy around it. China is watching carefully as that equation gets rewritten in real time. The Iron Beam tells every adversary on Earth that the age of drone dominance as a strategic tool against Western military power is over. If this is the kind of analysis that cuts through the noise for you, you are already in the right place. The real story behind the weapons changing the world right now. Hit subscribe to stay updated, because the next video is already going to make you question everything you thought you knew about modern warfare.